The Jehovah's Witnesses and the United Nations. How the Watchtower Society Fooled Millions. Chapter 8, entitled An Honest Mistake? So, could it have been an honest mistake that the Watchtower Society just really didn't know what they were signing up for? Could that have been the case? Well, notice what the first page of their application says. It says, please note that your association of your non-governmental organization, NGO, with the Department of Public Information, DPI, requires that you provide us with proof of your organization's nonprofit status and with an annual report on its activities related to United Nations issues. End quote. That's on the very first page, ladies and gentlemen. And so, if the Watchtower is saying they didn't know, it was an honest mistake, and if they're saying that no one's signatures were on those forms, then why did they accept the library pass that magically was sent to the Watchtower? So I don't think the UN would just hand out these library passes to people that didn't sign or didn't know or didn't even try to apply for an NGO status. So this was on the very first page of the application that they had to have had. And not only that, it was on the first page of every application thereafter that they had to submit to renew their NGO status. And keep this in mind also, that the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of New York wasn't the only organization who joined as an NGO. There were other legal corporations of Watchtower around the world that also joined, that also would have seen this paragraph on the very first page of their application as well. So I'm going to show you here scans of that application. So it looks like there's quite a bit of information that's required on this application. So I don't think it was just for a library card. So you be the judge of that. But on top of this application, the very same year that the Watchtower Society's original registration was accepted, the UN issued a press release, and I'm going to provide scans of that and read it to you as well. So here is this press release, and it reads, 37 organizations granted association status with DPI. That's the title. The annual DPI NGO orientation course for newly accredited representatives of non-governmental organizations will take place at headquarters from 20 to 21 February, during which senior officials will discuss current activities of the United Nations and provide an introduction to United Nations information resources. The Department of Public Information, DPI, accepted on 28 January 37 non-governmental organizations, NGOs, seeking association with it. Among them are the American Cancer Society, USA, the Centro UNESCO of Galicia, Spain, the Confederation Latino American de Cooperativos de Ahorro de Crédito, Panama, Doctors Without Borders, Medicina Sans Fronteras, USA, France, the Ford Foundation, USA, the Foreign Policy Association, Russia, the Fountain for Amity and National Solidarity, Indian, and the Russian American University, Russia. A complete list is available from DPI. The department failed to approve the application submitted by 13 organizations and terminated the association of 14 others that were inactive. The NGOs officially recognized by DPI cooperate with the United Nations by helping to build public understanding and support for United Nations programs and goals. Over the past 5 years, the number of NGOs associated with DPI has nearly doubled to more than 1,300. To be granted association with DPI, NGOs must have national or international standing, support the Charter of the United Nations, have a broadly based membership, and possess the resources necessary for effective outreach. The 2-day orientation program will begin with a report on the United Nations Conference on Environmental Development presented by Jean-Claude Fabi, Director, New York Office of the Conference Secretariat. Key energy concerns will be addressed by Amadou Ouid Abdallah, Special Coordinator, New and Renewable Sources of Energy, Office of the Director General for Development and International Economic Cooperation. Ramit Sabitbravi, sorry, I'm butchering these names, a consultant to the International Research and Training Institute for the Advancement of Women and to the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, will give a demonstration of the innovative solar box cooker. On Thursday afternoon, a special 1-hour video program will introduce NGOs to the United Nations videos. This will be followed by a discussion of the historical perspectives and functional relationships between the United Nations and NGOs, given by Farouk Malawi, Chief NGO and Institutional Relations Section, DPI, and by Farida Ayub, Chief NGO Unit, Department of International Economic and Social Affairs. Addressing current activities of the United Nations in the political, economic, and social fields, respectively, will be these names. And I am not going to butcher all of those names. NGO representatives will be invited on a walking tour of the Dag Hammarskjöld Library, given by its director, Jacob van Heist. A reception by invitation will follow in the UNCA Club, sponsored by the DPI NGO Executive Committee. Friday morning's program will focus on the information resources of DPI. Topics to be addressed include the facilities of the NGO Resource Center, arrangements for group programs, how to obtain United Nations photos, and accessing United Nations information by computer. The program will conclude with an NGO perspective on how to be an effective NGO representative. Presentations will be made by Marjorie Cohen, League of Women Voters, Stephen Collett, Friends World Committee for Consultation, Amelia Dosey, International Social Service, and Kathleen Sedant, World Alliance of Young Men's Christian Associations. Further information on the annual DPI NGO orientation course is available from the NGO Resource Center, room S-101, telephone 212-963-7234. New representatives of NGOs who have not registered for the orientation should contact this center. So, did you notice about that letter? The headquarters applied in 91 and were accepted in 92, so they would have received this mailing. Not too sure about the other legal corporations and when they applied, but they would have received a lot of other information that required them to support the United Nations. So notice on this press release, it said that the NGO is officially recognized by DPI, cooperated with the United Nations to help build public understanding and support for United Nations programs and goals. And to be granted association with DPI, you must have national or international standing, support the Charter of the United Nations. This goes directly against what Watchtower preaches about being politically neutral in things of this world. And as the author states, this is also exactly what Paul Hopeful from the United Nations, his letter in March of 2004, this is exactly what he said. The author also says that during her investigation, she discovered that the UN's Department of Public Information mailed NGO directories to all associated NGOs each year. And the first pages of these annual directories always review the criteria in detail for NGOs registered with the DPI. So each year, the Watchtower was a DPI NGO with the United Nations. They would have received this directory. Not just the Watchtower, each and every one of their legal corporations that was a member would have received it as well. And the criteria remained unchanged during all of these years. So let's take a look at the criteria let's take a look at this directory and see what it looks like. So I'm not going to read the whole thing here, but I'm going to read parts of it. There's a little section in the middle that says, what is an NGO? And then the section below that, how do NGOs and DPIs cooperate? So starting off, what is an NGO? A non-governmental organization, NGO, is any non-profit voluntary citizens group which is organized on a local, national, or international level. Task-oriented and driven people with a common interest, NGOs perform a variety of services and humanitarian functions, bring citizens' concerns to governments, monitor policies, and encourage political participation at the community level. They provide analysis and expertise, serve as early warning mechanisms to help monitor and implement international agreements. Some are organized around specific issues, such as human rights and environmental or health. Their relationship with offices and agencies of the United Nations system differs depending on their goals, their venue, and their mandate. Over 1,500 NGOs with strong information programs on issues of concern of the United Nations are associated with the Department of Public Information, DPI, giving the United Nations valuable links to people around the world. DPI helps those NGOs gain access to and disseminate information about the range of issues in which the United Nations is involved to enable the public to understand better the aims and objectives of the World Organization. How do NGOs and DPI cooperate? The Department of Public Information and NGOs cooperate regularly. NGOs associated with DPI disseminate information about the UN to their membership, thereby building knowledge of and support for the organization at the grassroots level. This dissemination includes publicizing UN activities around the world on such issues as peace and security, economic and social development, human rights, humanitarian affairs, and international law. Promote UN observances and international years established by the General Assembly of focus world attention on important issues facing humanity. Sorry about that. This is a little bit blurry and small, but that's what we have for the world, the directory on page 5. Now we have the page 6 of this directory, and we won't read it all either, but we'll read the part where it says, what are the criteria for NGOs to become associated with DPI? Organizations eligible for association with DPI are those which share the ideals of the UN Charter, operate solely on a non-for-profit basis, have a demonstrated interest in United Nations issues and proven ability to reach large or specialized audiences, such as educators, media representatives, policymakers, and the business community. Have a commitment and means to conduct effective information programs about UN activities by publishing newsletters, bulletins, and pamphlets, organizing conferences, seminars, and roundtables, and enlisting the cooperation of the media. So there you have it. Each and every year, every legal corporation of Watchtower would receive this directory with these instructions each and every year. So, since the headquarters were registered as an NGO with the DPI in association with the UN, under the same exact criteria that they have denied having any knowledge of, that's kind of hypocritical. They've had all of this information, and yet they were saying that they didn't know about this criteria and that it had changed after 2001. So the author brings out a good point. This denial would require 4 things: that they missed the first paragraph of their initial application in 1991, that they missed the 1992 mailing that all NGOs received, they missed the press release that year as well, and they missed the recap of criteria in the annual directories all 9 years, every single legal corporation the Watchtower has. And then on top of all this, their membership never lapsed during this entire period, which means that they were fulfilling all the criteria the UN required of them, or else their DPI association would have been disassociated by the United Nations themselves. And my personal opinion is the Watchtower has always been very involved in the court and legal system ever since the days of Charles Russell being taken to court. And as a matter of fact, one of their presidents was nicknamed the Judge. They have fought legal battles many times. They're no rookie in the court system, and they do have a legal team that helps them to legally establish the good news. So with that in mind, there's no way in my mind that they could have not known about any of this criteria. Who signs something without having their legal department not look at it? That's just pure ignorance and stupidity to believe that someone would believe that they were ignorant in these matters. So this is going to conclude this chapter. Thanks for listening. Thank you for taking time to listen to my summary of Jehovah's Witnesses and the United Nations, how the Watchtower Society fooled millions. Post your comments, like and share this video, subscribe to my channel, and stay tuned for Chapter 9.